All right, now this should be a whole lot better on streaming. So I had to go back and do some adjustments on some of the way that it encodes the video. It wasn't doing it exactly how it needed to, so it was buffering a whole lot. It would have given you guys a whole lot of problems watching it. So check resolution. See, now it's telling me check resolution. See, the streaming current bit rate is higher than the recommended bit rate. Okay, I see what we're doing here. So we'll just go ahead and do this then. All right, so I'll change the bit rate on that. Now that should not give us any more issues, I hope. So let's go ahead and share this one more time on Facebook. Let's see. Go ahead and do this. YouTube issues. All right, so I'm gonna paste. Holy cow! Post that back on Facebook. So that should be a whole lot better now. You shouldn't have all that crazy buffering. So we should be good. We should be good. Let's get back to where we left off. All right, the Samsung Galaxy S3 is what I'm working on here. It's got an intermittent power button. Whenever you bump the button, it tends to shut off on its own. It tends to power cycle. It's dropping the customer's calls. It's doing a bunch of stuff that it shouldn't be doing. So what we're going to do is we're going to remove this and replace the power button on this, which I have here in these little packets. I've got a couple extra power buttons here just in case if we need them. We shouldn't need them. So let's go back under the microscope. Let me show you guys again what we were looking at real quick before this stream got disconnected. So this is the power button that we're staring at right here. That was my soldering iron beeping at me. So this is the power button here. And if you can see, let me take a pair of tweezers. It has a bunch of play in this button. There is just way too much play in that. And it's kind of funny because this phone is in immaculate condition. So the fact that that power button went out before anything else, no water damage. I mean, the housing on it is perfect. It doesn't look like it's even been dropped a single time. So we're going to go ahead and remove that power button off of there. I'm going to be using some hot air on this. I am going to use some Kapton tape to minimize the heat on any other part of the board except for what I need it on. So let's go over here. Let me grab some Kapton tape. Let's see here. Go ahead and pull some of this off real quick. I'm going to place this over the board and over a couple of the chips that I do not want to heat up. I do not want to heat any of the connectors up because those will melt. So you do have to be careful on what's on the other side of the board, because you don't want to heat anything else up that's that you don't want cooked off of this board. We're going to use as little heat as possible. Let me zoom out here on this microscope so you guys can get a wider view here. You don't want anything up on this board that you need to. So you're going to want to watch all of your components. You're going to want to watch this component here and make sure that nothing happens to it. Whenever you're heating all these components underneath here, you don't want those to get too hot. So we'll push this down just a little bit, but it is going to raise up. It'll heat up, loosen that glue on the back, the adhesive on the back of this Kapton tape. But if you have it done right and you do it quick enough, you don't have to worry about it. You can just move in right here once that's heated and remove that button. And then we'll put the new button on. Why is this giving me such problems today? What is wrong with our... I don't understand what is wrong with the string. Let me go ahead and lower the resolution quality. All right, we'll go ahead and lower the video quality on this just to make sure that we can go ahead and stream this. It probably won't be the clearest video, but it should be a lot better. At least we won't be buffering. So that looks a lot better now. Still not the best video quality, but we will have to figure out what is going on with that, because it's saying that it's not receiving enough video to maintain a smooth stream, such as viewers will experience buffering, and I don't want you guys to have buffering. Rather the video quality be a little bit lower and you guys be able to see what's going on here. Let me make sure that this is getting in focus here. I want you guys to be able to see this pretty clear. And make sure on my camera that it's clearing up here, because it takes a minute for me to be able to see it. So, all right, it's clear. Now let's hope it stays right there. Man, I've never had so much problems with rendering video on YouTube. I don't know what the deal is. All right, so put the Kapton tape away. Let's go ahead and hurry up and do this before this thing shuts off on me again. So let's get out a little bit of heat. I'm going to use a little bit of solder paste here, or not solder paste, flux. I'm sorry, I'm mad at YouTube right now. We're going to go ahead and use a little bit of flux, just so this will heat up a little bit quicker. The solder that they use on these chips is non-leaded, so it takes a little bit more heat to melt these. And they use it just for, I guess, health purposes, and it's cheaper and all that stuff than leaded solder. So we're going to go ahead and preheat the board, because you don't ever want to heat this board up and shock it. So we're going to go ahead and preheat this board a little bit. And as soon as that should be preheated enough, we're going to go in for the kill here and see if we can remove this. You'll start to see it liquefy. I've got my airflow down really, really low. I don't want to heat this thing up any more than I have to. I want to go ahead and get this in and out real quickly. So as soon as you start seeing that solder get a little bit shiny, then you'll know it's flowed pretty good. So let's go ahead and get this tip a little bit closer. You see it start getting shiny there. So we're about to get this off now. There you go. So we got the button off of it. Now what we're going to do is we're going to run over this with some solder and put some leaded solder on there. As you can see, here's the old button and what that looks like next to it. So we need to know that the orientation of that button. So whenever we go to put the new button on it, we have got the contacts in the points that they need to be. So you will see here that when I flip this button up on its side, you have the 2 pinholes that go through that it mounts to the board with. Well, let me flip this thing. Come on, work with me here, buddy. About as bad as YouTube is right now. Alright, so you have the points where it solders into the board, and then on this back side you have a contact point here, a contact point here, and then the contact point in the middle. So you've got your 3 contact points, and then where it actually goes into the board, solders into the board. So we will go ahead and push that button out of the way. We'll throw it in the trash. It's done. Let me get out my soldering iron here. On this one, we're going to go ahead and use a flat tip to go ahead and tin and clean this up a little bit. And then we will go ahead and use a pointed tip and clean that up a little bit better. And tag down that button so that way we don't have any other issues with it. So let me go ahead and clean this tip off. Make sure it's nice and clean. We will go ahead and put just a little bit more flux down. You can never have too much flux doing board level repair because you don't want any dry spots. Any dry spots, you'll burn the board. And once you burn the board, it is a pain in the butt to fix. So we're going to go ahead and flow these little spots here. Make it all nice and shiny. And then what I will try to do, usually you don't want to wick any of these connections, which solder wick is a piece of copper that will remove solder off the board. And generally you don't want to wick those connections. So I'm going to take the solder wick and just place it where the holes were for this board to, or for that switch to mount to the board. So I want to remove those. If this video is given any problems, which I think it may still be, yeah it is, I am going to go ahead and let this keep going, and I'm going to upload the stream that I'm actually recording right now. And I'm sorry about that. I will call Cox Communication here first thing and have them come out here and check out our internet and figure out why it's messing up. So, man, I don't understand that. Video output is low. I don't understand that. So what we'll do is we'll just go ahead and keep cleaning this. Go ahead and wick all I can out of there, out of these holes. Because once we put our switch down, it'll want us back into those holes, and you want those as cleared out as possible. So now I'm going to go ahead and get the other button out of this packaging I've got right here. And plop this on the table. Okay, little buttons right here. We're going to pick this up. We're going to look at it through the microscope just to orientate ourselves with this button. It's going to sit just like that once we get it back onto the board. So it'll sit just like this. So we want to go ahead and look at the bottom side of this button. Turn that with my fingers. Holes line up. There's our contact points here. I'll show you guys real quick with the sharper. sharper thing here with our contact points here, contact point here, and our other contact point here. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and flip this onto the right orientation. We clean this up just a little bit with some alcohol and a cotton swab. So I don't want to mess this up here. So and those of you trying to watch live, sorry about the stream that it's messing up. We'll get a hold of our internet service provider in the morning and figure out what the problem is, because I like live streaming and I know you guys like watching some of this. We're the only repair shop anywhere around here that does board level repair. So it's kind of neat getting to see some of the stuff that we do. So it's fascinating. Not a lot of people do this. So the fact that we do, and we try to service our customers and make them happy and do what we can, is it's pretty awesome. I enjoy my job here. I enjoy working here. Electronics is my life. It's what I love doing. So clean that hole off again. Just touch this pad up a little bit. Just use a little bit more flux. Flux helps what it does is once it's heated, it has an activation agent in it. Once it's heated to a certain point, it will clean the area and allow the solder to adhere to the area that you were soldering on. So it just makes it real nice and clean. So I don't want a huge amount of solder on this, but I want it enough that once we place this chip down and we heat it, it's going to stick to it. So let's see here. So we're going to go ahead and put this in there. We'll go ahead and grab this chip. Go ahead and flip this around. Get this orientated just right. Go ahead and set this on the board. Use my other set of tweezers here to hold it. I'll move it into place. And hold it just like this. And what we'll do is then we'll heat it, and it should drop down right onto that board. So let's go ahead and move this stuff away. We'll go ahead and use just a little bit more flux. I want to go ahead and put it on the back side of this board back here, just for this connection. And let's start to heat. Let's see what we can get here. So I'm going to preheat the board a little bit. It's pretty warm as it is, but I didn't want to give it too much time to cool down. So I'm going to go ahead and preheat this board. And once this heats up enough, you should see this drop right into place. And you don't want to heat it for too long because you don't want to melt that button. So I had it right into place, and my tweezers pulled it out. So that is sitting right there. What we're going to do is make sure that this is flush on the board. And we know that that is flush now. So let's go ahead and pull this tape off, because we won't need this tape to protect anything anymore. As you can see, we didn't melt any other thing off the board. Let's go ahead and be careful pulling it off, just in case if we did heat a component and it did desolder itself. Look underneath, make sure that there's no component desoldered there, and we'll look at the chip. So you see how it's raised above the board just a little bit. What we're going to do there is we are going to touch that up with some solder, and that should be perfectly through that board all the way. So we're going to touch that up with a little bit of solder. Let's see here. We may put a little bit more heat on that and I will press down on that component just a little bit. See if I can get that to seat down there. Just a little bit easier. So let's see here. So I'm going to go ahead and apply a little bit of heat. Get that solder to liquefy just like it is, and pull the heat away and hold it. Now let's check the back side of that. Yep, that's as close as we're going to get it to the bottom. That looks perfect. So now what we're going to do is we're going to touch this up with a little bit of solder on the back side of these connections. So let's get the soldering iron out here. I'm going to go ahead and switch tips on this, which is going to be loud. So I'm going to use a fine tip. Alright. I hear you. I'm going to go ahead and use a fine tip on this. And then this way what this will do is allow me to get in, and you can see that tip on there right now. So what this is going to allow me to do is get into these joints in here and hit those with some solder without messing anything up. Let's see, let's go ahead and get some solder here. Let's go ahead and put a little bit more flux on here. And after we're done with this board, we'll pop it, and we have what's called an ultrasonic cleaner. And it resonates at a certain frequency, and it will, in exchange with the chemicals that we have inside of the ultrasonic cleaner, it will clean the board properly and get all the paste, all the solder paste and everything else, and the flux and everything else off the board. Just gives it a real good cleaning. So let's look at this now on its side. And you see the one on the left, how it looks really good and solid, and the one on the right looks bubbled. So we're just going to go right here and touch this and see if we can get that to adhere a little bit better. So there you go. So now that's adhered. We're going to go ahead and heat this portion up and flow this right on top of there. So that looks like a pretty good joint here. We'll go ahead and touch this up just a little bit. That looked a little ugly. So let's go ahead and press the button. Makes a clicking sound. It is down on the board properly where it needs to be. And now I'm going to hit it with the cotton swab again with 99% isopropyl alcohol. So you want to make sure that you've got a good clean surface on this board. You do not want to, you don't want to leave any residue behind. So I will pop this. I may pop this into the ultrasonic cleaner. Actually, what I'm going to do, I want to test it first so you guys can see on camera that it's actually working and that I don't do any voodoo magic off of camera to make this thing work. So let's go ahead and focus in on this button. Let's go ahead and get some focus here. There we go. So you can see the button. It's really rigid. They hold up to heat really well, but you can see that there's no play in this button at all. So it's clicking the way that it should. It's acting the way that it should. So I would call that a successful swap on a button. So let's go ahead and let's move the microscope. I'm going to go ahead and test this on the board just to show you guys that it still is working. I will blow this off with some canned air. Let me go ahead and switch camera views for you. Oh, that was that one. All right, so we'll switch camera views real quick. Let me get some canned air real fast. Blow this off. I don't want anything else on there right now. So let's do this real quick. All right, so we've got that. Move this camera just a little bit more over here. That should be pretty clear for you guys. So let's take the housing back and bring it back over here. Let's place this board back into the housing. And if you've seen earlier, it should stream just fine. It should touch itself up. But you guys will see how it was intermittently when you would graze the button with your finger. It would power it off, or it would try to shut the phone off and it would sit there and continuously reset over and over and over. So this should have taken care of that problem. So we're going to go ahead and pop this back on. Let's go ahead and pop this antenna wire back on, just in case. I don't want to leave anything unhooked. I want to test it as if we were putting the phone back together before we clean it. I'm going to go ahead and leave that one screw out. Go ahead and put this backing on here. Actually, I need to put the top piece on first before I put this backing. So we'll go ahead and put this on here. We're going to go ahead and leave the rear camera off the board for now, because all we're doing is just testing the functionality of the power button. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'm going to go ahead and pop this back piece on. I just can't believe how immaculate this S3 is. And we're going to hit the power button, and hopefully you guys will be able to see it come on. Check that out. New power button. There it is, Samsung Galaxy S3. So we know the power button's working, or it wouldn't have powered on just now. And we will test the power button real quick once it boots up. This camera's not at the best angle. So now we'll go ahead and let it completely boot up all the way. I've got to fix this streaming. It looks like it's working great now. It's just first portion of it was junk. So you may have a little bit of junk in the beginning of the video that you may have to scroll through. I think it'll encode all of it. I think it'll buffer all of it out. Once it does that, if it hasn't, the videos that I record, because it records while I stream, I will go ahead and upload those videos so you get the whole thing, and I'll edit out all the junk where I'm having to mess with it. So let's go ahead and just rub past this button, and it is not doing anything. But if I press and hold, then it wants to shut off. So that is actually very good. So that's actually working right how it should. Volume's working on it and everything. So just turn the phone off, turn it back on, raising the button. Nothing's happening. Push it off, push it back on, raising the button. I want to hold the button down. Gives me the power screen. Go ahead and press the button again. So we're going to give this thing an ultrasonic bath, and then I'll put it back together, call the customer in the morning, and let them know that their phone is ready. Guys, thanks for watching. I will definitely have a better stream. I will figure this encoding thing out. I will call my service provider and figure out what is wrong with this, because it should have worked. It should have worked. I'm sorry it gave us such problems, but like I said, if it's glitchy, I'll go ahead and upload the video that I am recording from all of this, and I'll edit out all the junk. So please like, share, subscribe. Check us out on Facebook. If you guys need any phone repairs done, we take mail-in orders. Go and visit us at www.keepumobile.com. And the U is just the letter U, just like it is on the shirt. Or on the right there in the bottom of the corner, right there, Keep You Mobile. And you guys can visit us on Facebook as well. Leave a like, comment, share, message, anything like that. We'll be glad to help you out with anything. And we'll see you on the next stream. Thanks, guys.